Join Tony Bodo and Kayla Barrett, co-authors of the #1 bestseller, The Complete Experience, and learn powerful insights that will help you confidently drive your organization's success.
This is probably one of my favorite topics. We link to a principle in our book about the relationship between your customer experience and employee engagement. And in the blog, we talk about the positive viral activity that occurred from an experience at Chick-fil-A. And you know the one I'm speaking of.
Absolutely.
What an amazing moment for a hearing impaired customer to walk into the restaurant and to be greeted and served by an employee of Chick-fil-A who responded to her in sign language to place the order. It went viral for a lot of reasons, I think. And the reason why, Tony, I love a topic like this is because it really does speak to the human spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of what we deal with around customer experience is related to the human spirit. It's an emotional connection. It's a desire to help. It's a desire to give back. Or we've talked about in some of those negative experience, it's the desire and the compelling obligation to say, I need to save you from the experience that I had. And through all of that, the word authenticity comes back over and over and over again of what is that unique connection between the customer experience and between the employee engagement. And I think it comes down to this.
Yes.
Always comes down to an interaction. And from a customer's perspective, they long for an authentic experience, that genuine moment that I walk into your business and I feel like I am heard, I am seen, I am spoken to in a way that makes me feel important. You're glad I'm here.
Right.
And how that organization, how those employees respond has to be just as authentic in that response to say, I could be doing a lot of things right now. You are my #1 sole priority and focus right now. And I want to make sure that we connect in that moment.
Right. It's as if everything else, all other distractions are gone. And I see you and only you.
And only you, which means we're distraction free.
Exactly.
Now, how hard is that?
Well, it would seem to be hard for so many people, but the reality is it's a skill that can be taught.
It is.
Like anything else. And a lot of what we do when we work with clients in the area of customer experience, but specifically employee engagement, it is that element of engagement. So if we look at athletes who get in the state of flow and or get in the zone, like they can't miss a shot or they can't miss the baseball when they're making a hit, the golfer who's always getting it right on the green, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's being in the zone. Your employees can do the same thing, and it's called employee engagement. And if you take that and understand what engagement means in psychology, it does really mean being in the zone.
And in the moment.
Yes.
In the moment. And, so much of the experience that we have as consumers, you could name probably immediately off the top of your head, in the last 5 days, how many interactions you've had with the business that you felt you were just a transaction.
Yeah.
And if I can just get rid of you and take care of you, I can get back to what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating. However, we could also sit here and say in the last 5 days, we can readily think of a moment where we were involved with a business and it was such a moment of interaction that we had to tell someone.
Right. Well, not just that. There's even more. And this gets to the bottom line of the organization. A lot of times when I'm speaking and talking with executives, doing keynotes and that, there's kind of this doubt that customer experience doesn't really pay off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love
it's
when
touchy-feely.
Exactly. I love when they come from that because that's where I came from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was in this, I was doing customer behavior research and that, but it wasn't the same thing. It was really not focused on the soft side, the psychology side. It was focused on operations of the organization. So when I'm speaking with organizations or speaking, at conferences, and I've got these executives who are incredulous in the audience, and you can see it. You can feel it from the
There's
stage.
a look. There's a look.
Like, okay, I'll get through this next 45 minutes. Here's what I do. I ask them, have you ever been to a restaurant where the experience with that server was so good that you lingered longer, you had a little bit of a conversation, you ordered dessert, you ordered coffee, whatever it was, or you took someone back there later. You talked about it and brought people with you next time you came back. Inevitably, they all have an experience they point to. I said that right there is how customer experience affects the bottom line. It was the employee's engagement, that server paying attention to you, seeing you as the only one that they had to care for in this particular moment. They may have had 3 or 4 other tables, but it was you in that moment. That's what makes the difference in customer experience. That is the top thing.
Every time. And a lot of the work that we do is around this process improvement. We're wanting to help the organization move from point A to point B, whatever point B is. A lot of times I will talk to a customer and I say, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions. Assumption number 1 is you've got a good product or service, or you're always trying to improve whatever that element is, because even the best of employees can't sell poor service.
Right.
They can't sell a poor product. So if we put that over here on the shelf and say we're going to assume we're always working on quality improvements to that. So if that is the case, all things are equal. Beyond that, it's this engagement, this experience and interaction that you have with that organization's employees that make all the difference. I can buy a chicken sandwich in a lot of places. I will purposefully drive a few more miles if I see a Chick-fil-A sign, because I know I'm going to get a quality experience. I know they're going to give me my Diet Coke, and I know I'm going to have a moment where it is going to do something that brightens my day a bit.
Right.
It's the experience. They have good chicken, but it's the experience that keeps me coming back. And I will choose them over other alternatives. Now, I know they're always working on their product.
Right.
They're always working on their chicken, but they work equally hard on what experience is every single employee striving to have. They're not perfect. There's no such thing. But it's developing and teaching what does this really mean for us? And so when they're investing in their employees, there will automatically be a return in that customer experience. And as you shared just a moment ago, there will always be then a financial return.
Right.
In some way or another.
You driving a couple miles further, they earned another meal.
They did.
And it's,
when other alternatives were available.
Exactly. And so it's really being able to understand that. In fact, there's a post we've got that people can go see, 13 different ways that customers increase value because they love the experience. And that's not all of them. I found 13, but there's more than that, and I know there are.
And they're rich.
Exactly.
And sometimes simple.
Exactly. It's very, very easy to tie customer experience to return on investment, but it comes through the investment in your employees. Your product, as you said, I love that. Your product, it's a given you're improving that. It's the people. It's the people that actually are driving over half of the customer's experience, for good or for bad. For good or for bad.
They're driving one direction or the other,
exactly.
By the way.
Exactly. And there is no status quo. There's no, it's just normal. That doesn't exist. It's either improving or it's devolving.
Absolutely. And what begins to happen there is when organizations begin to get that concept, it will radically change how they look at their people. It changes who you select. Who are you willing to wear the brand? Are you worthy? Are you worthy to wear this name? Because it really has a definition of what we what we establish as an expectation. So it does begin to change who you select, and you're selecting folks and new employees that positively add to that experience. So there's a level of a service-minded person. There's a level of helpfulness. There's a level of teachability. There's a level of I like people. I enjoy people.
I think there's a level of emotional resilience.
Yes.
How do you bounce back after you have a challenging customer? Because trust me, not all customers are perfect either, right?
True.
How do you bounce back? How do you bounce back if you had something happen at home and you've got to go to work today? How do you bounce back? So teaching your employees resilience, which they may not have been taught. They may not have had the experience of life to teach them that yet. How do you do that? How do you teach them mental focus? That they stay, as we talked about, focused on the person in front of them. Get rid of those distractions. Those are all skills that can be taught, which most organizations in their training never get close to touching.
We don't. Just speak first.
Exactly.
Your job to provide great service is speak first to our customers.
Hi.
Exactly. There's so much embedded even in that greeting, even in that awareness. For service-based organizations where you're waiting for customers to enter your door. and enter your location. There's a whole element around that. The reason why I love that Chick-fil-A story is because this young lady was prepared.
Yes.
And there could be a lot of talk. You could say, unique timing. She knew sign language. The customer needed sign language. I'm fully convinced when an engaged workplace exists, that even if that young lady did not know sign language, she would have been prepared to help that customer in another way.
She would have slid a piece of paper across,
something,
written the order back and forth. She would have found a way to communicate, touching the board and saying, "You want this or this?" There would have been something. I've seen it happen before, and I think when you have engaged employees, the employees will find ways to bring out gifts that you didn't know they had, and maybe they didn't know they had opportunities to use in your workplace. And that's what I love when companies really understand how important their employees really are. Everyone says it, but let's get real. Let's look at how they behave. Let's look at what they really do. Let's look at where their money is invested in the training side of things.
Absolutely.
And when they invest in those things, when you see these companies really take off, it's because their employees have changed. It all comes down to the employee's mind and the employee's heart.
Absolutely.
Because then what the employee says and what the employee does, that makes the difference in a customer's experience.
Every time. And we're not talking about a cheerleader moment.
No, not at all.
In an organization at all. But it is a very thoughtful interaction, and it's a very intentional interaction. Even on a morning when I wake up and I overslept and, the dog wouldn't get off of my clothes, so they're wrinkled, to I got stuck in traffic on the way to work. Those are distractions. So there's no such thing as it's not perfect. But it's such an intentional strategy, and I think it's fascinating and amazing. At the same time, when we find companies that are interested in and they want to bridge that gap, and they want to find the connection between those two.
Right. Absolutely.